Amanda from Pontes Books here with the chapter 24 fun fact for the Prince and the Pauper. Today's is a fun one. I mean, it's called a fun fact. It should always be a little bit fun, but a brief one. But I was really curious, and so I tried it out to see. There is a moment in the story where the constable is told that he has to count to a very high number, and I wanted to know how long would that take if he actually did it. So today we're looking at counting to 100,000. 100,000. So again, here's the reference from The Prince and the Pauper. So this is the constable. If you watched the last video that was talking about Miles Hendon kind of taking advantage of the fact that this constable didn't speak Latin, he tells him he committed a crime. And so the constable wants to do whatever he can to not get in trouble for his crime. So Miles says that he needs to do this. Only that thou be blind and dumb and paralytic, whilst one may count 100,000, counting slowly, said Hendon, with the expression of a man who asks but a reasonable favor, and that a very little one. So he doesn't actually agree right after he says this. There's still some back and forth, but essentially Miles says, like, hey, basically stand there, close your eyes, don't move, count to 100,000, and then we'll basically escape. So obviously the constable knows that that's what's going to be happening. So what I wanted to know is, if you really did count to 100,000, counting slowly, how long would that take? So I tried it out and did the math, and I did it in probably more steps than you need to, but it's fun to see it kind of get bigger as you go along. So counting to 100,000, my first thing that I did was I timed the amount of time it would take myself to count to 100 slowly. So in case you're wondering what that meant, I did 1 1,000, 2 1,000, not 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So I probably could have gone slower had I counted Mississippi, but I did 1 1,000, 2 1,000 to 100. So the amount of time that took was about 132 seconds, or 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So then I took that number and figured out then how much, if I was counting at that same pace, not taking any breaks, how long would it take me to count to 1,000? So then you just multiply that number by 10, essentially adding a 0 to the number of seconds, which equaled 22 minutes. So still not entirely unreasonable, right? That's a long time to sit there just counting, but very doable without having to necessarily take a bathroom break or get food or anything like that. So then I, multiplied by 10, essentially, again, amount of time it took to count to 10,000. Again, I didn't do this, I'm just doing the math to figure it out. And so that worked out to be about 13,200 seconds, which is 220 minutes, which is 3 hours and 40 minutes. Okay, now we're starting to get into a lot of time. You might not be able to keep your focus or do that without taking a break. But again, this calculation is just based on straight counting. But if you were able to just straight count 3 hours and 40 minutes, so then lastly, what would it take to count the full amount to 100,000? Multiplied by 10 one more time, got 132,000 seconds, 2,200 minutes, which is 36 hours and 40 minutes, which is over a day. Kind of like a little over like a day and a half. And so if you're thinking about it at this point, like, that would be without sleeping, without, getting anything to drink, taking a bathroom break. I suppose you could still technically count, but not if he's supposed to not be moving. So realistically, if you wanted to work in some of those things, it's been estimated by some other people who did kind of these similar type activities that it would take about 40 hours to count to 100,000 if you factor in some of those other things. So that's a crazy amount of time, right? That he's asking him to count to 100,000. So hopefully he's just like kind of speaking in hyperbole, and that he just basically wants him to just stay there until they have time to get away and give them enough time. Because realistically, if he had followed that instruction, that would be kind of crazy. He would definitely have, I don't know, lost his job, lost his mind. I don't know. But I thought that was a fun fact. So that's counting to 100,000. Hopefully you learned something. Have a good rest of your day.